guests, welcome to today's Big Brother 19 updates and spoilers. Our house guest today is Joy. What's up, Joy? I've actually met Joy in person a few times, and it's always a pleasure. So I wanted to say hey, hope you're doing great and enjoying this season. I don't know how you can't. It's been freaking crazy. But if you guys want to be house guests of the day like Joy, check out our Patreon link in the info box below. Alright, where the fook are we right now? I just want to give you guys a little bit of context. I don't like to overlap a lot, but I just want to refresh your guys' memories just in case you forgot where the hell we are right now. So basically, Paul is trying to convince Jess not to use the halting hex, and she was like, alright, for me to even think about that, this is what I'm going to need. She wants everybody to promise that she is not going to go up on the block for the next 2 weeks or 2 evictions, and she wants people to promise that if they win the next HOH, they're going to take out Alex. Okay, so Paul is getting everybody to say that they're on board, but they're not actually targeting Alex next. He's like, just go along with it, we'll pretend, and then we'll take out somebody else. So the only people not in on this, besides obviously like Jess and Cody, are Mark and Elena. They are in the dark, and they think that this plan is for real, and that everybody's like, yeah, we're gonna go after Alex, woo! 2 weeks in a row! Okay. Also, another storyline here. Cody and Jess have been arguing lately because Paul told Jess that Cody said he wanted to keep Alex and Jason around to take out her and Raven. So Jess went and confronted Cody about this, and he was really upset that Jess is questioning his loyalty. Oh, so they're fighting. Alright, so then that's where we are right now. Jess checks in with Cody in the rose bedroom. She's just like, are you okay? She says that she's sorry if she let him down, and he's like, you don't have to be sorry for anything. You've been nothing but loyal to me, and I think that you're amazing. But at the same time, like, the damage has been done. So he says that he wants out of here. Don't use the hex this week. So then there's silence, and Jess is just like, and what about us? And Cody says, we'll figure it out after the show. So Jess is like, alright, well, I hope you'll still feel the same way outside of the house. They kiss. They rub foreheads together for a while, and then she's out of there. She's got a big meeting up in the HOH room. Paul said he was going to get everybody together to confirm Jess's, whatever things that she wants. You know what I mean. So this is it. So Paul has Mark, Elena, Matt, and Raven all up in the HOH room. Jess goes up there. They let her know that Christmas is coming up later. You know, it takes her a while to get up those stairs. No, she's getting her meds or something. So they discuss Jessica's terms, and they all say, like, yeah, we're going to keep you off the block. We're going to target Alex. Yeah, okay. So Paul says, yeah, you've got all of us and Christmas. And he keeps telling her, you have never been the problem. We like you. When Cody was out of here, we had a blast. You're sticking fingers up people's butts. We love it. Really? Because that week Paul was saying, I'm so sick of that. But anyway, he's saying Cody's the target. So then Christmas joins them. She also agrees to the plan, of course, and Jess is like, alright, well, I just want to reiterate something while I have all of you guys up here. She says, I understand that some, if not all of you, have a hard time living with Cody, and I get that. But you've got to remember, he's a Marine, he went to war, and our government conditioned him in a certain way. He's used to trusting people with his life, you know, he's used to loyalty and trust, and this game is the exact opposite. You're here to lie, cheat, whatever, steal, kill, no, but he's not used to that. So she's like, I don't condone some of his actions, but I will defend him to the end of the moon. I feel like she's mixing up a few phrases there, but we get what she means, right? So then she's saying, like, nobody should shut their heart or their doors to a vet. Obviously, not a Big Brother vet, but like a war vet. So everybody agrees, and they're like, yes, yes, of course, definitely. Jess says, if you see me hanging out with him, like, that's real life. That's not game. So, like, don't freak out about it. So Paul's like, no, like, this is not what this is about. We're not saying that you should abandon Cody. We don't want to see that. But he's saying at the same time, what you're saying right now is just reaffirming that this is not a good environment for Cody and he should go. Of course, Paul's going to say that. So before the group breaks up, Jess says to Paul, I asked the DR something, and if they tell me no to what I asked, you have to use the veto cut the feeds. We're not allowed to know yet what she asked. Ugh. So when the feeds come back, Paul's like, all right, well, we can figure that out later. We'll talk about it later. Figure out what? What's going on? Okay, don't worry. We will talk about it later. So Elena, Christmas, and Paul are left in the HOH room, and Elena's like, you two are the only ones who know that I've separated myself from Mark at this point, because they kind of like broke up the other night. So Paul is like, all right, well, just like chill out. It's going to be fine. He thinks that Mark's gameplay is going to change a lot once Cody is gone. What, do you think he's going to start worshiping you now? Maybe. So Paul is like, it's all right. I'm going to lay off joking about Marlena. I know it's like a sensitive issue right now. So Elena leaves, and then Paul and Christmas are left to strategize. So Paul is planning next week for whoever wins HOH to put up Alex as a pawn to appease Jess so she doesn't freak out, and then just take out Elena or Mark instead. See, he's not gonna follow through with that shit. So then Paul is just like, ooh, excitement. He can't believe that they actually might pull this off and get Jess to not use the hex and send Cody home. Alright, so then Jess visits Cody again in the Rose bedroom. She's really trying to fix things here. She's very persistent. She keeps kissing him and trying to talk to him. He's just lying there being quiet. So eventually Jess is like, do you not want to be with me anymore? And there's this really long pause. Nothing coming out of Cody's mouth. And she's like, you shouldn't have to think about it for that long. So Cody's like, honestly, at this point, like, I would have walked away already if I could have. So yeah, so then they're talking a bit more. She's trying to get him to say that he loves her. He said it before. She said it before, which is like crazy to me, but whatever. I guess it's like a pressure cooker in there. So eventually he does. He's like, yeah, I still love you, but I'm tired of always having to prove myself. Like, I wouldn't be doing this in the real world. It's ridiculous. He feels miserable right now. So then they're talking more, and eventually they end up making out. Hardcore. They're freaking like banging. So Big Brother cuts the feeds. Get it out of here. We can't have that on the feeds. So then after they come back, more heart to heart, more part to part. She says she just wants him to be happy. And then there's a little bit of game chat. She says that she's waiting for the DR to get back to her on a question that she asked. So here we go. We find out what the question was. She asked when she would be able to use the halting hex. You know, does she have to do it before the votes are cast? Can she do it after the votes are read? What's the deal? Pretty sure she has to do it before the votes are cast. But she's like, the card said anytime during an eviction, so she's hopeful. She would love for the votes to be read and for one of them to be evicted, and she's just like, no, that's not happening. So we'll have more on that in a minute. So later, Jess and Cody are talking again. They're revisiting the whole Alex and Jason thing, the drama. And Cody's like, look, that was week 1. It meant nothing. So much has happened since then. That was just the boys blowing off some steam, some good old locker room talk. Do we have to? I'm sorry. Every time I hear locker room talk now, I think of freaking Donald Trump and Billy Bush. I can't. Okay, so then Jess is like, all right, so you're saying it could have been said? And Cody's like, yeah, but there was never an actual deal involved. The only deal he made with Alex and Jason was to keep everybody safe. And everybody was so grateful for that, right? But anyway, it seems like Cody and Jess are back on track. Everything's okay now for the most part. Alright, so then Jess does get her answer from the DR, and she goes to share it with Paul. So she tells Paul that she has to use the halting hex right before the vote begins. She can't wait until after. So for that reason, she says she doesn't feel comfortable staying up on the block, because if she goes ahead with the plan and does not use the halting hex, and then they just vote her out, she's going to be freaking pissed. You know, they might want to get her out. It will be very tempting to get rid of the temptation. So Paul's like, well, that's not going to happen because nobody else knows how this power works, and I'm not going to tell anybody. So Jess is like, that's too much of a gamble. I don't feel comfortable with that. So just use the veto on me, and then I won't have to use the hex. So Paul's like, yeah, one problem with that, people are going to be really suspicious if I use the POV on you. So Jess is like, well, that's tough shit because I've been promised a lot of things in this game and those things have all fallen through. Like, how do you expect me to trust you on this? So Paul keeps saying, you gotta trust me. I want Cody out so badly, not you. So they kind of leave that for a minute. The conversation turns to the power veto speech. Jess is saying, listen, bucko, I'm gonna get defensive if you talk about Cody in a negative way in your power veto speech. So just don't do it. So Paul's like, well, I want to make one little comment for TV to make it entertaining. And he's saying he's not trying to get a rise out of Cody. Yeah, okay. And he says the whole point of it is to lift Jessica up. Yeah, okay. Yeah, right. So Jess is like, okay, I'm going to be real with you right now. I'm going to use the hex on Thursday if I feel like I'm in danger. So Paul's like, all right, I promise you're not going to feel that way. But at the same time, he's still saying, like, I'm not using the veto on you. So, yeah. Paul was then in the HOH room with Kevin, Jason, and Josh. And he brings up that Jess might feel more comfortable if he uses the veto on her. And that if she's uncomfortable, she might use the hex. And they don't want that. So he's saying, maybe I could use the veto on her. The replacement nominee could be Elena. And then Josh is like, can I say something here? I like that Josh has to ask if he can even speak at this point. So he says, Jess knows what it feels like to lose her #1 ally. Do we really think that she's going to want to go through that again right before the jury? Don't you think she's going to want to try to keep Cody around at any cost so that they can be in the jury together? Good point, Josh. So Paul is like, yeah, well, one of them isn't going to make it to jury anyway if she uses it. He's just assuming that Jess and Cody are not going to win this next HOH competition. They could freaking win, and then they'll both make the jury. But he's saying, like, no way, one of them's going to go home. So then all the guys are like, oh, yeah, she's really freaking stupid if she uses it. Is she, though? All right, so then Jess and Mark are chatting in the bathroom area, and Jess is like, I don't know what to do right now about this halting hex. I don't know if I should use it or just let Cody go. So she says that she's not worried about safety and making the house happy. She's freaking ready to play. I have to say, I really do like that Jess is not just trying to, like, make the house happy. I hate that phrase. And that style of gameplay gets so boring to watch. So I'm glad she's ready to shake things up here. But she's saying she doesn't want to give Paul the satisfaction of taking out Cody. At the same time, she knows that this is really rough on Cody. He's not used to this environment. So she's saying if Cody wants to go, she's going to have to respect that. So then she's asking Mark, if I use the hex and you win the next HOH, would you keep me and Cody safe? And Mark says, absolutely. I have your back. I have Cody's back. If you guys are here, we're together. Oh, damn. All right. So then Josh and Elena, ooh, they've been joking around a lot, flirting a bunch since her and Mark broke up. So Josh at one point was asking Elena about her and Mark's situation. He says that he's noticed a difference in their moods the past 2 days. And Elena's like, yeah, well, we're not really together because this environment is not conducive to exploring a relationship. And she's saying, like, Mark likes me a lot more than I liked him, and I like to move slowly, blah, blah, blah. So then, you know, they're hanging out for a while, and eventually this escalates to Josh saying that he wants to declare his love for Elena by taking over her have-notness for her. Ugh. So they go into the DR together to ask about making this happen. Josh being a have-not instead of Elena for 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure they don't allow that. That's like a non-transferable thing. I don't know if the DR ever gave them an actual answer, but I'm pretty sure you can't do that. Yeah. And at this point, Elena is still a have-not and Josh is not, so I'm guessing it was a no. But anyway, would Josh seriously do that? That's freaking ridiculous. But anyway, Mark is not happy about Elena's new friendship with Josh, so he's being all sad with Jess and Cody. Oh, I can't listen to it anymore. So then Jess was going through the pros and cons of using the hex with Elena. She's trying to break things down. And it really sounds like Elena doesn't want her to use it. She's like, if you don't use the hex, we can all make it to jury. Woo! So Jess is saying she wants to make big moves. Nobody remembers floaters. She's really all about leaving her mark on this game at this point. And she knows that that's not really going to happen if she just, like, lets Cody go. And she knows she's going to be in trouble anyway if she lets Cody go. So why is she going to do that? So then, moving on. This is really important. It sounds like Paul could possibly be changing his mind about what he wants to do this week. Maybe he doesn't want to go for Cody as badly as he previously thought. So he was having a game chat with Matt and Raven, and he's just like, if we could convince Jess not to use the Hex, it might be better to just vote out her instead of Cody. Because then, you know, they would get rid of her and her temptation. She is the stronger player of the two. He feels that way anyway. So they would be left with Cody, and Cody would not have this halting Hex to save him. So he's like, damn, it might actually be better to take out Jess. So he also reveals to them that Jess has to use the Hex before the live vote starts. So much for keeping that a secret. And they're not really sure which way they're going to vote yet. If they even vote, I'm pretty sure Jess is going to use the Hex no matter what. But, you know, they're thinking maybe we should get rid of Jess. It doesn't seem like Matt wants to do that, but I think Raven is on board because Paul is on board. Yeah, alright. So anyway, Mark and Elena had a late night chat, and Mark is talking about his feelings. Again, the most drawn out breakup in Big Brother history. So they're talking about feelings. Paul comes outside to stir stuff up, and he's saying, like, separation may not be the worst idea for you two. Look at Jess and Cody. They're freaking the Titanic sinking right now. Look at Matt and Raven. They're starting to piss a lot of people off with their weird-ass, aggressive relationship, always pranking each other, always hitting each other and yelling. People are over it. Like, they're getting really annoyed, especially with the pranking and all the baby powder and shit all over the house. They don't like it. So Paul is telling them, use this opportunity to fall back under the radar. You can still play parallel games, still help each other out, but just on the down low, you know? Don't make it so obvious. So they talk for quite a while with Paul. Eventually he goes inside, and Elena and Mark come to some sort of agreement. Elena agrees that she will hug and kiss Mark when they're alone, but she has to initiate it. Oh my god, this is so freaking ridiculous. I'm like sick of this shit. Okay, so then Paul was still pranking last night. He can't get over the whole Vaseline and the coffee thing, so he put some Vaseline on the coffee scoop that stays in the coffee can. So that means there must be Vaseline on the coffee. That is freaking disgusting. So this morning when Cody went to make coffee, he was like, well, that's gross. So he's pretty pissed about that because it was actually on the coffee. So he stops using that can, which also was the decaf, because Paul switched that the other night. So he gets a fresh can, uses a spoon, so he is back on that caffeinated coffee. Alright, so today they had the power veto ceremony, and apparently Cody did not give a speech, which Paul was pissed about. And then Paul used the veto on Jason. There is no replacement nominee because Jason was put up as a result of the TC. And then Jess and Cody remain up on the block. So it looks like Jess is definitely using the temptation now. She has to. You can't have that in your back pocket and be in this situation and not use it. Because that would look really stupid if you got voted out and you had that temptation. So, I mean, I'm not just assuming that she's going to use it. She was also saying, like, that they have to win the HOH next week, which would imply that Cody has to be there. So, anyway, it looks like Cody is back in the game. He wants freaking revenge on these people. And then they were talking about their plan. Jess wants to put up Alex and Raven on the block and then take Alex off of the block with a veto, put up Paul, and then Paul goes home. Or even if he doesn't, they would get out Raven. Whatever, leave it up to the house. I'm not convinced that Paul would actually go home against Raven. I feel like there's so many Paul worshippers still left that there's a good chance that he would stay. Alright, so then after the POV ceremony, there was lots of drama. This has been a crazy day. So apparently, Jess saw in one of the mirrors Raven, Jason, and Kevin talking. So then she sees in the mirror Jason making some sort of gesture to alert the other two that Jess was nearby. So, like, don't talk about her because she's right there. So Jess thinks that they were talking about her, and she's freaking pissed. So Jess and Raven go in the Rose bedroom, and Jess lets her know, like, that's really effed up. It looked really sketchy. And Raven's like, we were just talking about the veto. And they actually were talking about the veto at the time. That's true. But Jess is like, how am I supposed to trust you? You freaking lied about your vote last week to my face. So then Jess leaves, and Raven asks Cody and Jess to talk in the Apple Lounge. So Raven explains again, we were just talking about how the veto's made. So then Cody's like, hey, can I ask you a question? Why are you so against me in this game? So Raven's like, I love you as a person, but the whole house is against you. And I haven't been conspiring against you at all. I have no power this week. I have no say this week in what happens. So basically she's saying she's just going with the house. So Cody's like, oh, that's how it is? Mm-hmm. So then Jess is saying, like, I have nothing to say to you right now. So she asks Raven to leave. Raven kisses them both on the cheek on the way out. Why does she always do that? It's so freaking awkward. I would just be like, don't touch me. That's weird. And I don't just mean her. I mean anybody. Like, that's freaking weird. So then Raven tells Jason, Kevin, and Paul what happened. And I have to mention, at the time, Kevin was talking to Josh in the money bedroom, and Raven freaking very rudely asked Josh to leave. She's just like, can you just leave? Just get out. I need to tell him something. Damn! Alright, so then she tells them what happened. They're just like, no, we were talking about the veto. You know? We weren't lying about that. So Paul is telling Raven, just start fake crying, and then Jason, you go tell them that they made Raven cry. Oh my god. So Raven goes and whips up some tears in the money bedroom. Jason follows his orders and goes to talk to Jess and Cody. And, you know, obviously everybody's following through with what Paul told them to do. So Paul is listening to this outside the Apple Lounge door. So Jason's like, hey, Raven's crying right now, and we weren't even talking about you guys. So Cody's like, all right, I want to ask you something. Jason, what was up with your power veto speech? Apparently, Jason made some sort of jab at Cody in his speech, which again, Paul told him to do. Oh, you people freaking grow your own brains? So Jason's like, well, I feel like things changed between us since you came back, and, I don't know. So Cody's like, I just wouldn't have expected this from you. I thought you were independent. It's just, come on, man. It's not cool. So then Jess leaves to go talk to Raven again. She's just like, why are you crying? Raven's answer should have been, Paul told me to. But no, she's not going to admit that. So she's just like, well, we were talking about the veto. Ah! Alright, so then Jess is like, you got to put yourself in my shoes. People have been treating me like I have leprosy. Of course I'm going to assume that you guys were talking about me when I see that freaking hand gesture in the mirror. What the hell? So, you know, they're talking things through. Eventually Jess is like, yeah, I believe you. Blah, blah, blah. Alright, meanwhile, Jason and Alex are talking in the storage room. And Jason admits to Alex, this is all BS. Paul told Raven to freaking start crying. And he admits he really was warning Kevin that Jess was nearby. That hand gesture was for real. Like, yes, they were talking about the veto at the time, but he was warning Kevin, like, don't say anything. So, yeah, things are getting crazy. It's super tense in the house right now. Paul is trying to get everybody to start harassing Cody. It's getting really ugly in there. So we're going to pick it up there tomorrow. Already, there's so much to talk about. But we'll get there. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. And until tomorrow, much love.